Hi, I'm Abby.
And I'm Morgan, and we are part of your doTERRA support team. Hey,
Okay.
I'm Morgan.
Hey, I'm Abby. We have our friend Melissa here with us today. We're really excited to have her. She's going to share her experience with oils, tell us how she got into them, and, especially talk about OnGuard and oregano and what she uses those for.
Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So, after I had my first baby, I had this little tiny newborn baby. It was before I knew anything about taking care of a baby. And he would just start, in these rashes all over his body, head to toe, just like welts. He would break out in like hives and welts on his skin. My mother is actually who suggested putting him in a bath with some lavender. And so at the time, like I knew nothing about oils. I think I found just lavender, like at the grocery store, some lavender oil and some Epsom salt. And so I put this tiny, tiny baby in this bath with just like a sprinkle of Epsom salt and like maybe 1 or 2 drops at the most of lavender. And it really amazed me because he went from head to toe hives to clear skin in 15 minutes. And so that's when I started to think like, okay, there's something to this, especially with how little he was when that started to happen. He must have been a month old at that time. And so there's really not a lot of interventions at that age that are safe for a small baby. But later on, we discovered that he has severe allergies to eggs and nuts and just like basically the outside world. And that that came together like how it was helping him with these allergies he was receiving through my breast milk, and it just soothed it,
Mhm.
which at the time I had no clue. We didn't even know he was allergic to anything till he was probably a year.
Wow.
I started getting clogged ducts, would get really, really sore breasts. And I was in California the first time. My cousin handed me an oil and said, try this, put this on. And I ended up going to the doctor and getting an antibiotic, but I didn't end up taking the antibiotic. I didn't need it.
Mhm.
So what we had tried was OnGuard, and later down the road, I've had 3 kids now, and I have cropped up with like confirmed breast infections repeatedly through my nursing experience. And so over time, I've learned like when I start to hurt, the best thing to do is to just start with oils right away. And so sometimes they've gotten pretty bad and I've called my doctor, or gone into the doctor. I had an experience with one doctor where I told him I don't like to take antibiotics. And he said, okay, well, do you use oils? Which kind of threw me back. My doctor asked if I had clove oil on hand, and
Mm.
I told him I had OnGuard and it contains clove. He has, I think it's his wife who is a doTERRA representative. He has a fairly good knowledge of these products and good experience with them. And so he was like, hey, try that. And so I did. And I think that's the time I was like, I had like this much, I had hardly anything. And so I reached out to Abby. I was like, hey, do you have any OnGuard on hand? And didn't you have a bottle that was like you already started using?
Oh, yeah, I did. I had opened, but I had only used like a couple drops from it. But
Yeah.
I was like, I have this. And then I had like, you have ones just sitting around the house. That's what I do at least. And so I'm like, oh, I have this one, and forgot that I had this other one, but I used a couple drops. But yeah,
So you graciously gave that one to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. I don't have to wait for the mail. Because I knew
yeah,
if I had to wait for the mail, then I would end up taking stuff I didn't want to take. That saved my hiney. And now I've gotten a little smarter in my old age, a year later. And I try to keep it on hand, right?
Well, I was just gonna say, Melissa actually taught me because I didn't know like that I could use On Guard for stuff like that. And thankfully, in having my second daughter, I hadn't had any of those problems yet thus far. And I had breastfed the longest that I had, before. And because I was having those issues with my first, she actually taught me. And like a month later, I started, getting the sore and the redness and all the things, and like just did not feel good. And I used OnGuard like she told me, and it helped me. It helped alleviate a lot of those symptoms, helped me to get to that relief point. And I didn't end up having to use antibiotics either. I was pretty close to almost called to ask for a prescription, but I was like, okay, I just wait it out for today, and by tomorrow, if not, because like I needed to function as a mom.
That is so cool. So I don't have any experience with what you guys are talking about because I'm not a mom. It makes sense to me that the doctor would have recommended clove to you, Melysa, because it's one of the highest value antioxidants like on the planet. So it's like very potent.
I will say the citrus in it is also another recommendation, because I've heard of women who use specifically lavender and like lemon or citrus for these issues. But since OnGuard has worked so well, I'm like, I'm just using OnGuard. I'm not even going to try anything else.
Yeah.
It's going to work.
Yeah.
I
Well,
guess I would if I didn't have any on hand. Then I'd be like, okay, what else do I have?
right. Oh my gosh. And it's so funny that you say that, because that is such like an oil user quality. It's like, I've got this right now. What do I have like on hand that can double up as an effective agent to like help me with that,
Absolutely. Well, that's what I did this last time because it was so bad. It was so painful. I mean, my milk had turned green. I had visible clogs, which I'd never experienced before. I had no clue that was a thing. But when I realized how bad it was, I added oregano on top of the On Guard because I was like, okay, I don't particularly like oregano because it's such a strong smell and it burns if it's on your skin. But just the fact that it's food grade, which is one thing, like if I'm putting it on my breast, it's got to be food grade. So that when it gets into my baby's food, then my baby's not being hurt by it. Having that comfort of a food grade oil that I can put directly, well, not directly on it. I always put a carrier over, whatever carrier you prefer. Almond doesn't protect the skin as well as coconut, I've noticed. I don't know if for all areas, but definitely for the breasts it is.
Yeah.
So I would do a good layer of coconut and then at least 2 drops of On Guard and 2 drops of oregano. So like a lot.
Just the bare bones amount of oil so it's not so caustic feeling. Clove and oregano both are like some of those stronger ones that can sometimes burn if you put them on directly. So like just a word to the wise, dilute those for sure.
I have done it without the barrier. You don't want it.
One time, right? Like never again.
One time's all you need. Yep.
Especially on such a sensitive area. One time is all you need.
For real. Well, being not a mom, I can say I do feel so grateful to know that these tools exist, because I feel like the first time that, God willing, I experience a clogged duct, I'll know exactly where to go, what to do. Even so, I'll probably still call you guys. Like, is this normal?
We've got your back, Morgan. Thanks for coming on and helping us out, Melissa. Super grateful for everything. So
Absolutely. My pleasure.